disco.
This ain't no country club neither.
This is RVA.
Welcome, welcome, everyone.
Howdy do.
Howdy, howdy, partner. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Fair to middling.
Welcome back, you guys, to another riveting episode of Oh Lala
In the Dungeon.
Episode 9. Let's just go quickly over what we did the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been busy.
We've done a lot of stuff. The first thing that we did, we participated in the U-Crops Monument Ave 10K. Liz ran it.
Yeah, baby, an hour and 9 minutes.
Wow. And I walked it. And I puked somehow. But someone did come up to me with a champagne glass squirt gun and squirt me in the mouth with it while I was walking. So maybe that's why.
You accepted a drink from a stranger?
It was a 10K. Maybe it was drugged.
What happened?
No.
And what happened after you accepted it?
Well,
He squirted it in her mouth.
yeah.
And then?
And then I didn't puke right there. It took me a while, but we were celebrating my friend's birthday afterwards, and I was like, I'm sorry, I just cannot go. I feel like crap. I have to go home. And I drove Liz and my friend to, where'd we go?
River City Roll.
I drove them there, and then I went home. I died, and
She rallied.
And then I rallied. I came back for the party, so hooray.
Yay.
Okay, and then, do you want to say anything else about that?
Well, I just would say it's a fun event. If you've never done it, it's also fun just to spectate at.
Yeah.
There's tons of, people shooting champagne into your mouth.
There was like a group of people meditating, like 20 people just out legit meditating.
And tons of bands. And it's for a good cause.
The money goes towards
cancer research.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Nazi Cancer Center. And a lot of people run in memory of someone who's died of cancer. So you see all the breast cancer survivors and stuff. It's just a good uplifting.
Yeah, I had it was my first time. I didn't understand the hype, and then when I was doing it, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." I had such a good time.
And then it's an excuse to stuff your face afterwards.
Yeah, cuz I got 20,000 steps that day on my Fitbit. I couldn't believe it.
10K, that's 6 miles, right?
Yeah,
6.2 to be exact.
Wow.
So that was fun. Then we also went to Wear RVA's 4th annual fashion show at the Science Museum of Richmond. It was the Dewey Goddard, actually, if we're going to be specific. Saw my gorgeous goddaughter, Caitlin. Shout out to Kate.
Oh my God.
I know you listening.
She was so beautiful. And if you don't know what Wear RVA is, it's a local full production charity fashion show that does not hold auditions. The models are local high school girls, all shapes, all sizes, all backgrounds, showcasing the latest trends. And this is the coolest part. Everything they wear is local, from local boutiques and designers. They empower women. They raise money for local scholarships. They're 100% sponsorship funded, and they partner with local businesses, like I said. And shout out to the owners, Amber and Taylor, for putting on a flawless show. And I want to shout out all the businesses because I feel like we have to. So Allen Furs, Cedel, Uptown Cheapskate, Entheos, The Sea Boutique, Dakota, 707 Fine Clothing, the Petersburg High School Classes fashion class, Woven with Grace, Goodwill, and Glitter and Lace Formals. And my personal favorites were the furs and glitter and lace gowns.
Yes, I got actually randomly selected to be interviewed while there, and I was put on the spot because they were like, "What's your favorite look so far?" And I'm like, "The champagne I'm drinking." And now I'm just kidding. I said one of the furs. They had some really sick furs, but I'm sure we can get into the fur controversy.
Those were amateurs? That was not professional?
Well, some of them were professional models.
I couldn't tell the difference. I saw the photos, I saw the videos. That was beautiful work.
Yeah, I sat next to a kid. Shout out to Joey. I sat next to this kid. He just graduated high school. His girlfriend was in the show, and she's a professional model. I was like, "Oh, that's cool. She's in the show." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, she's been on magazine covers." And he was flipping through his phone, showing me. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." He was so nice. I really liked it.
It was a lot of fun.
It's a great show.
And then let's see, what else did we do? I went to a new Italian place, somewhat new. It's called Sprezza, and it's in the old Morton Steakhouse location. And oh my God, it was so good. I highly recommend you go there. Run, don't.
Is that the one just near Capitol Square?
It's down in the bottom. It's like a block behind Chenet.
Okay, yeah.
Miscellaneous told us about that.
Yes.
They were like they weren't brick and mortar, whatever it's
Mortar.
called.
Mortar, yeah.
Motor, whatever.
But my friend randomly now lives in Puglia, so weird connection. She just moved there last summer, so she's living the dream. Anyway, back to RVA. Did you get into anything else?
Well, Lee and I saw the same movie.
Yes.
We saw The Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, I was with the Red Vein Army Horror Club. We went to see it as a group last Thursday.
I was with Harun.
And yes, Olivia went to see it. I think we can both agree it was pretty gory.
Oh yeah, it was very gory, and I loved not the 70s one. It was okay, but the remake of the 70s one, like the one that.
Oh, I love the 70s one.
But I like the remake of it. It was so good, and I was so excited to see this one, and I didn't like it.
But if you're a horror nerd, it's like you kept seeing all the references to the original movie in the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the chainsaw. They had the. It's like there's a lot, and Bruce Campbell actually is doing a voice in the movie. I've never been a big zombie movie person, but this is one where it's like they're not truly zombies; they're possessed by some evil force, and it had a Necronomicon mention. So of course, I'm an H.P. Lovecraft fan, so I loved it. Well, I liked it.
I thought it was very cheesy.
Well, it's meant to be. It's not meant to be a feast for the intellect.
Well, the last one was.
The 2013 one, the one.
It was so good.
They rebooted The Evil Dead.
It was amazing.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see.
It's hard to please me.
I liked the OG, so.
Oh, yeah.
It was good. I mean, but the other one was the 2013 one. What blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if that about wraps up what we've been up to, let me. Oh, no.
I did one more. I did go to Hardywood Brewery.
Ooh.
And I have never been to a brewery that looks like a Swedish ski chalet. It's beautiful. I've never seen. It's out there in the country, and it's set up on a hill in this, and it's like the food trucks are. Okay, I'm a food truck fan anyway. I love food trucks, and they got a.
Was River City Wood Fire there?
No, this one was it was a taco cart, but I like tacos
Boca?
anyway. So I wish it was. I like Boca Taco. They had the Korean tacos that I love so much, and but it's like the beverage menu is enormous. The parking is good, which is my complaint of Richmond.
Kind of a long walk though.
Yeah, well, it is. But the night I went, the music was too loud, and this is coming from a guy who's been to Ozzy and Judas Priest concerts. It was, but it's okay. You can forgive the little stuff because it was a good day to go sit outside and have
Drink some burr.
Well, yeah. So that was my only other thing. So moving
Nice.
on.
Well, then, let me introduce our guest, our esteemed guest, our second female guest. Yay, how exciting.
Ladies' night.
Woo! Sorry, Lee. No. So we have with us Catherine Baab-Muguira. She is a writer and journalist who's contributed to the Wall Street Journal, Slate, CNBC, NBC News, The Cut, Shondaland, and many others. Catherine is also a frequent podcast and radio guest with appearances on NPR, Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic podcast, Lifehackers Upgrade, Janet Varney's AV Club, and countless comedy podcasts. Her first book, Poe for Your Problems, Uncommon Advice from History's Least Likely Self-Help Guru, was published by Hachette. Am I saying that? In 2021. In 2022, it became a finalist for the Library of Virginia's People Choice Award, and it won the International Poe Festival's Saturday Visitor Award. She also lives in good old RVA, and I've known her practically since she was born. Let's give her a warm welcome. Welcome, Kat.
Welcome, Kat.
Y'all, I'm so happy to be here, like out on a school night.
I know, yay.
So nice to finally meet you because I've met Amy and Caitlin and Lauren. I love them. And you look so much like Amy.
Totally believe that.
I've never heard that before. Kat is Amy, my best friend's sister. So
I feel
To
like
give
the
people
part of
some
my bio
context.
that was missing was that we used to skip school and drink together in high school.
Oh, this is true. Yes, I may have been Kathy Baab, Kat's mom, a time or two.
Oh, I heard about that.
Hi, this is Mrs. Baab. Catherine won't be in
had forgotten
class
that.
today.
You did a good impression. I'd forgotten about that.
I have too many kids to keep track of. Sorry, bye. No.
Real. I'm one of 7 kids, so it was.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I heard about that too.
And then we'd like be like, Grandma, excuse us, we just need some water out of the freezer. And we'd like steal my grandfather's
God, you
vodka.
guys were bad.
Your grandmother was so sweet.
I know, she was.
Okay, so I just want to say right off the bat about Poe. First, I had no idea that Poe was from Richmond. I knew about the Poe Museum, but I've never been, and I never put 2 and 2 together, so that was surprising.
Yeah, he's a total local boy. He was born in Boston, but he spent his formative years here in Richmond. I always say because he went to high school in Richmond, and that becomes your psychic prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why we own him.
It's a black hole.
And the museum is incredible. They just expanded their collection in a huge way. And the staff's super nice. I like everyone there.
We got to take a trip.
And they still have the cats,
It
right?
was so cool.
They do, and they have an unhappy hour once a month where they have drinks in the courtyard.
Oh, nice.
Kat had a book signing there when the book first came out, and it was so much fun. That band that played was really good too. Were they the
Ham
Undertaker?
Biscuits.
Oh, the Ham Biscuits. Okay.
Yeah.
Ham?
My friend Alan's band.
Oh, ham alert.
Yeah, they were great.
Liz loves ham biscuits. Okay, and so how did you get interested in Poe? Like, when did it start? Was it at a young age? Because I learned about Poe in middle school.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that was kind of me too. It was a little bit earlier. Did you go to school in Richmond?
No, I'm from upstate New York.
Okay, fair. We get them in elementary school. At least that's how I remember it. I think I heard The Raven in 4th grade when our teacher read it to us.
Yep.
And I was a big reader as a kid, and I fell into reading a ton of Poe. I can't believe that parents let their kids read that stuff about premature burial and torture and whatnot. But I tore through it.
It's literature.
Right. I mean, yes.
Well, the nursery rhymes are pretty morbid, so why not the literature?
Yeah, oh,
That's true. Grimm's fairy
That's
tales
more
are
about, like,
incredibly dark.
Typhoid.
For sure. So I was an elementary school fan, and then I kind of fell away from him. And I did an English degree and then a master's degree, and I never really encountered him again. Because the thing is, like, the Academy doesn't necessarily love Poe. A lot of people, like, think he's low culture, and so they kind of sneer at him, even though there are people who study Poe specifically.
I love people like that. I love
too.
when they're kind of like, I don't know, pushed
Anti-just
aside.
establishment.
It's a little sexy.
It is, and, like, you can pick them out of a lineup. You know, they have an identifiable look, I found. It's something to do with the paleness, the dark hair.
My type of guy.
Yeah, he makes it. He refashions you in his image. Anyway, so this is years ago in 2016. I like fell into this really horrible depression, and I started reading him again for the first time since I was a little kid, because I think I was like, oh, now's a moment where I feel like reading about torture, and
Right.
realizing that he's talking about psychological torture. too.
Make the depression worse.
Yeah, you know, that was initially the urge. But I found that the more I got into him and I read the biographies and seeing how hard his life was and how funny he could be, it was just kind of an amazing example of someone who completed their work no matter what life threw at them, which was like a real powerful message for me at that moment. So anyway, I went down the rabbit hole with him again, and I wrote an essay about it, about how Poe was cheering me up for a website called Millions, and it kind of went like viral in a literary world way. So I got an agent and sold the book.
Wow.
That's really cool.
How Poe-esque.
Right. I mean, I kind of feel like I owe him.
I know, right? I mean, I could totally relate. The whole time I was like, God, I'm Poe, basically.
And it kind of was like he was destined to be a poet. Like his dad I read a little bit. Mm-hmm. I've actually studied him quite a bit. I'm reading through your book and like doing some research. And his adoptive dad wanted him to take over the tobacco business, and he was like, "Nope, I'm gonna be a poet." And like even like through like losing a fiance, like what else? So many bad things, losing jobs. Like he still just wrote. Like it was like the worst life got, the more it just poured out of him.
It's incredible, like the kind of strength of character that takes and the determination. And I also say in the book, like narcissism and megalomania help too. Yes. Whatever's working on your side, I say use it. Yeah, I just admire him. I find him a hero. And the interesting thing is that this is like not an uncommon view of Poe. It's how the French have always read him. Like he's considered a saint of the arts there. Yeah. Some French critics got onto him like in the 1860s and so on, and popularized him in France. So now he's got a reputation there on the level with like Jerry Lee Lewis. You know how they like Jerry Lee Lewis?
Wow, what?
It's kind of like that, right?
But he was such an innovator. I mean, he invented new styles of fiction, didn't he?
He absolutely did. I think we can credit him with the detective story, like the early stories like the Purloined Letter and the Mystery of Marie Roget and so on. These were, you wouldn't have Law and Order without those.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, he was incredibly innovative. And it was weird because the reason he had to keep inventing stuff was because there were no copyright laws or like no copyright laws like we would understand them. So your stuff would get ripped off all the time and you had to keep innovating, or at least if you could, you had to. So
I know I'd forgotten the whole Baudelaire thing. Like I was rereading your book before this and your whole part about that, like the French being obsessed with him. I'd totally forgotten that.
Oh yeah, Baudelaire and he were mutual admirers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And Baudelaire spent 17 years of his career translating Poe, which is amazing. And those translations, his essays on Poe are unbelievable. They're so good.
17. Wow.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Do you own any original Poe pieces?
I wish I did. I'm not rich enough.
Yeah, like you need like mega billion.
Well, you never know. Maybe someone will give it to you.
Maybe so. Someone did bring me some Amontillado at the book launch, just out of the blue, which was really sweet. And I get Poe gifts now every holiday.
That's cool.
Pillows, mugs. I've got a lot of Poe mugs now.
Well, he's actually very easy to read. He's not, he doesn't write in like a high, what I'd say, difficult fashion. He's not. He writes for the common man.
I agree. Like, I admire that he's a super successful commercial writer.
Oh, yeah, we were talking earlier about like Poe and Lovecraft. It's like Lovecraft wrote like it was a painful duty. It's like I mean, when you read it, it's like he invented words and tried to use the most elaborate language. Poe, you read it, he said what he meant, and he said it in as few words as possible.
I agree. I mean, Lovecraft is always using 6 words where one would do, and I don't dislike it. I find his style appealing, at least when he's doing it. But Poe kind of goes for the jugular, and again, that was because he was so poor, and he had to sell the work, and then as now, like, if it bleeds, it leads. So
and
you go for the gory stuff first.
People don't have that long of an attention span either.
Seriously.
Like, especially like back then, probably. I'm like, Matt always yells at me for this now, because I'm like, I read this, and he's like, oh, you read the article, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I read the byline. Sorry.
Yeah,
the bold parts.
The first paragraph skimmed. Yeah. That totally counts as reading.
So I want to know more about like how your writing process and how you came up with a concept. Like, did you already think like as you were reading him, when you refound Poe, were you thinking like, oh, this would be kind of cool as like a dark self-help twist? Or when did it come to you? How did it come to you?
Do you guys know the Franklin Inn?
Yes.
I love that little
the Franklin
bar.
Inn. Yes.
So me and my friend Alan, who I used to work for 10 years ago, he's written biographies of Jefferson and Twain. He's in that band, the Ham Biscuits.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Alan Pell Crawford, who's an awesome writer. Anyway, we've been friends for years. And when I was in I was starting to come out of like the depression, and I was deep into the Poe rabbit hole, and just talking about it when we were out having a beer. And I was like, it is the weirdest thing. Poe is cheering me up. And he said, that sounds like a book. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to write a self-help book based on Poe and call it How to Say Nevermore to Your Problems. And I literally wrote it down on a cocktail napkin. And I thought, that is the dumbest idea ever. Oh. And here we are.
But now it makes like perfect sense.
And you were going to name it that originally.
It was the working title. The publisher asked me to shorten it. So they have a lot of say over that kind of thing. But I like Poe for Your Problems as a title.
Yeah.
It's very witchy.
I like it. So did you come up with like the humor, like the footnotes from the beginning? Because I love the footnotes. Like I like laugh out loud at some of the footnotes. But did you want to like just keep it with that style, or did you think like let me throw some humor in here too because it's Poe, like dark, like
Well,
witticisms.
from the essay that inspired the book. The title of the essay was Edgar Allan Poe was a broke-ass freelancer. And I just talked about him as if he were like a freelance writer writing for the internet now because the rates have not changed. I adjusted his freelance paychecks for inflation, and you find that like, oh, he's making the same thing that I make when I write for whatever. So anyway, he just felt really contemporary to me at the time, and I thought it was funnier to kind of talk about him in an LOL kind of voice.
Yeah.
And then, when I was like working on the book, initially it was like very, very serious and depressing. And then that version, like I started working with my first agent, and that version was just very dark and kind of literary. And we went out and we tried to sell it, and we got rejected by 16 houses at once, which was really fun.
Oh my God.
And
how very Poe.
That's what you have to go through.
Right.
Yes, suffer.
yes, you definitely. I mean, I didn't have that perspective at the time, I should say. Now it's kind of amusing. But anyway, so I switched agents, and I was like, I'm going to take this in a more mass market direction because these fancy people won't publish me. And anyway, so a couple of iterations later, we had like a pretty good like mass market book proposal. And we were talking to different publishers. And the best case scenario in publishing is your book sells at auction because it drives up the price. Not that mine sold for that much money, it really didn't. But we did have an auction where various houses were bidding. And the thing is, publishers have a ton of control over how your book comes out and what the tone is and that sort of thing. So the week before it went to auction, which is like one day in which your agent trades phone calls with them and so on, with like the editors at the houses. Anyway, so one editor was like, I'm going to bid on this if you will rewrite it in the saddest possible way because I want this to be like this moving, lengthy, whatever, absolutely dark thing. And then another editor was like, I want you to punch this up and make it a nonstop laugh fest. And I had like a week to do this and just didn't sleep and pushed out both versions.
Oh my God.
It was horrendous. It was so horrendous.
sounds
I'm
like
like
hell
still
on
greasy from
earth.
not showering during that week. Oh, it was awful. Anyway, so I noticed during that time, like I would get up, I was working full time, so I would get up early in the morning.
Oh, that's even worse.
Like 4 a.m. and like start writing the sad stuff. And then at night I would start drinking and writing the funny stuff. And I just found that the funny stuff was a lot more fun to work on and didn't like draw me into like the darkest parts of myself in my life. I didn't want to keep reliving that stuff. So anyway, I'm really glad at the form it took. It wasn't entirely my idea. There was like a grain of it there.
Sure.
But I shouldn't take total credit for that.
Still, I think it's genius.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the book.
Yay.
I learned a lot about Poe. As someone who barely knew anything.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that.
You're a scholar now.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Poe tips, such as tip number 3, don't rein in your own bullshit, which I will live from now on, even though I haven't lived it before. What's your favorite Poecism?
I think the first tip is the most important. It's not labeled number 1. It's the Uber tip, which is stop looking for models of perfect living. Instead, embrace a brilliant visionary of terrible decisions to guide you to an epic life. And I just think it encapsulates my experience of self-help, which is that it's useless to try to change. I can't change myself. I would if I could. I can't, so I better just lean into the neurotic, anxious self that I already am and try to make it work for me, which is what Poe did, and it worked spectacularly well. So maybe there's hope for me and the rest of us.
We should all be emo.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I totally don't.
I already am.
As Hunter S. Thompson said, I wouldn't recommend drugs, alcohol, or insanity to anyone, but in my case, it worked.
Right?
Okay, well, I
You
have some random questions. Okay, one of them is Poe White Parkway named after Poe and Thomas White?
If only. If only. I wish that were true. I don't think it is.
Oh my God.
Nope,
Let's not even. If Matt was here, he would go off. He's like, it's Pow height. I'm like, if you live in Richmond, it's Poe white.
It was chief of
Especially
one of
if
the
you
Native
live in the
American
South
tribes
Side,
in Virginia.
This is how my GPS guy says it. My GPS guy has an Indian accent 'cause it's the only one that I can't. I can only tolerate that one, but I'm not gonna imitate the Indian accent. I don't think that's rude, but he pronounces it Po Whitey.
Po Whitey.
I like that even more, maybe.
I can tell you where it came from. It's a Native American tribe here in Central Virginia. That was the name of the chief.
Okay, now we know. Thanks,
more you
Nerdly.
Hey, a librarian. What am I going to do? I know lots of useless knowledge. Come on.
If you're a true Richmonder, you call it Poe white.
I think it's Po White, and it's named after Poe and Thomas.
Hey, how about
I like that
Parham Road? Huh?
No, Parham.
Parham. Okay, my other question is, do you think Poe would like your book?
I think he would tear it to shreds in one of his trademark sneering reviews, and I wish I had the benefit of that. I wish he could do it. He was so vicious and nasty. He was really kind of like an internet troll 150 years before there were trolls. He was doing it to gain attention, in large part, especially when he was writing here in Richmond for the Southern Literary Messenger. He just tore people to shreds to the point that his boss was like, "You need to stop or go." So I mean, it was part of why he got the boot from that job after less than
Seems
2
like
years.
a theme. How many jobs did he have? Like at the end or middle, whatever, when you were listing like his employment, and then I'm like, I'm literally going to publish that and show my parents. Like, see, I've stayed at jobs longer than this.
He couldn't hold down a job, which is another reason to love him, right? He's an incredibly unemployable guy, which I admire. And even that sort of worked for him in the end. It was because a lot of his most famous stories were published as freelance pieces. And he had to write for the market even more so, when he was freelancing versus having a staff job somewhere, which is still true. That's the dynamic of the journalism industry, such as it is these days.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he won a literary award for. He wrote for prizes too. My manuscript found in a bottle.
I love that story. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
I haven't read that one.
Oh, it's one of his earliest stories. He was in his 20s, and he wrote that one in Baltimore. So if you go to the Baltimore Poe House, that's where he wrote it, which was real special to me.
Is it weird I haven't been to the Baltimore Poe House?
Oh, it's really
I haven't been either,
cool.
Liz. Don't worry.
Anyway, it's the one where the guy he's on one ship that goes down, and he's thrown onto this ship that's crewed by ghosts, and then it gets sucked into a whirlpool, and presumably he dies. So when I was super depressed, I was like, oh, this story is really speaking to me. This is how I feel.
This is a metaphor for my life.
Sounds like Event Horizon. He goes on to that's okay. People still drawing inspiration from him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Jordan Peele's Us is like a total reworking of William Wilson. Yeah. Like the family is called the Wilson family. Peele was doing that absolutely on purpose. I don't think he's gotten enough credit for what he was doing there.
Okay, got more reading to do.
I do have two random Poe facts of my life. So when I first moved here, I was an intern, and my internship class did an escape room. In the escape room I forgot what the company was that put it on, but it was Poe themed, and I was only in there with like 3 other people because it's a smaller one, and it was in one room, and it was based off the Tall Tale Heart. Telltale.
Yeah,
so that was cool.
I would love to do that. I have not
find
done
it?
one of those.
We did, but I was not very helpful. I'm good at finding things, but I'm not good in groups. I'm a very solo worker. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that I was going to say is I'm from Elmira, and I thought it was cool that I moved to Richmond, Poe's here, and that's the name of his fiance that he was going to marry and then died.
Yeah, she was like kind of the girl next door, and her father, when he went to Charlottesville to UVA, her father kind of like got wind that they were a little more serious than he thought, and he intercepted Poe's letters to her, so she never knew that he was writing to her still.
Romantic.
He thought she had forgotten him, and so she married some.
It's like the Notebook. It's literally like the Notebook.
I've never seen the Notebook, but I believe
What
it.
happens in there?
You get kissed in the rain while your face is held.
Is that why that hasn't happened for me yet?
If you watch the movie, it will.
All right, more serious questions, Liz. You have the serious
All right,
questions.
let me pivot. Okay. As you mentioned in the book, I'm getting into like some deep literary stuff, guys. So I don't know.
Hold your horses.
Get out your pens and paper. Poe was at his most best when bemoaning lost love. Do you think his mom was his most pivotal lost love? And now that we're older, has your perspective changed? For example, I'm way more angsty about like career moves now than I am my love life, etc.
That's very real. Yeah, I absolutely think that's dead on. His mom died when he was between the age of 2.5 and 3. And when I was researching the chapters on that, I came across this stuff in child development literature, studies, and so on, that this is a crucial moment in any kid's life where you can perceive so much more than you can actually say. So his mom was dying of tuberculosis over a period of weeks, probably in front of him, right near Capitol Square. They were in a boarding house. His dad had abandoned the family at this point. So it's likely him and his baby sister. We think the older brother was somewhere else at the time being taken care of by family. So anyway, Poe's in a room at 2.5, 3, watching his mother die and perceiving so much of this, right? What could be worse? Like, what could be more awful for a little kid who needs their parents more than anything? So the fact that he grew up to be like the foremost poet on grief, and a lot of that to do with dead women, not a coincidence. I don't think so at all. But even so, like, no one would wish it would happen that way, right? I don't want that to happen to anybody. But the fact that he, kind of made amazing art from that experience is really moving to me.
Yeah, because he could have been like a serial killer.
Right, or just like drunk in a ditch the entire time rather than just some of the time,
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the greatest artists I've ever known were able to channel their mental illnesses into an art form.
I think that's totally true.
Like Van Gogh,
like me.
Yeah, and it's
it's
a complicated relationship. I think like you do it in spite of the mental illness, and also you do it because of the mental illness. So it's working on a lot of levels. I'm speaking from experience, maybe I'm not making the quality of art, but like definitely bringing the mental illness. So
I think it's kind of cool. It's not cool that you went through a depressive phase of your life, but it's cool that depression brought you to Poe. It's just so Poe-like.
Right?
It's very cool. It's like he called to you.
It was like a strange intuition, where I hadn't touched him in years, and it was my childhood copy, like of the Complete Tales of Mystery and Imagination. I was like, this is strange.
Have you ever heard the Alan Parsons Project album?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Lou Reed did a concept album around Poe, too.
He did? Which one?
Yes. I think it's just called The Raven. And it wasn't that long ago.
And I consider myself a Lou Reed fan. I got to hear
Oh,
this.
yeah. Okay, I'll send you links if you want. And Joan Baez covered Annabelle Lee, so did Stevie Nicks. Joan Baez's version a little bit
His
better.
poetry was way ahead of it. I mean, it was so beautiful. I haven't read any poem by Poe that did not just sing.
Absolutely. He's going for a musical effect, and it is devastatingly effective. Like, he really pulled that off.
The guy knew his words. I mean, he had a large vocabulary.
Yeah, and he had a beautiful sense of rhythm. I can't remember the exact, poetic meter, and no one wants to hear it anyway, that The Raven is written in, but you can hear the rhythms of that in every single line. Like, and the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. Like, holy.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Snap, that's good. All right, coming back to my interesting questions. All right, so what is the most interesting fact out of all of your research, maybe, if you can come up with just one, about Poe in Richmond specifically? Because we got to bring it back to RVA, baby.
RVA.
Oh, I can think of a dark thing.
Yes, we love dark things.
So obviously Poe's writing pre-Civil War, and even in his prime years of his career are the 1830s and 1840s, and he spent a lot of time working in the bottom. That's where the offices of the Southern Literary Messenger are. I think it's where that strip club is. I'm not exactly
Club
sure.
Rouge. All right,
Yeah,
I've been to another Poe stumping.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so you're communing with him if you go see the show there. Anyway, so even though this was slavery was a major political issue at the time, Poe very rarely ever looked at it directly, and he did publish some political commentary, but he never touched the issue. And even though the Southern Literary Messengers, those offices were right by the slave market, he would have passed it and it was the busiest in the South other than New Orleans. So scholars, I hope this isn't too boring.
No.
Anyway, scholars for years have been asking why he didn't address slavery, and I think it's because, and I'm not the only one to say this, but he was a working journalist. He had to get jobs, he had to sell freelance pieces, and he couldn't come out about a divisive issue, so we don't really know what he thought, which is an interesting thing to say about an antebellum Southern writer.
Right.
He spent most of his career working in the North. So whereas some people have read him, and especially like read some of his like editorials for magazines and such, and concluded that he was pro, I think it's kind of impossible to know. He probably was pro, which doesn't endear him to us, right?
Right.
But it's interesting that like the biggest political issue of the day is basically absent from his work, and he would have like it would have been very apparent in Richmond at the time.
Right.
Wow, that
Well,
is
in a
interesting.
way, with his economic standing, though, for most of his life, like he didn't have a choice but to try to write for privileged whiteys.
Yeah, very much so. Like that was the market was white men and determined by white men. Yeah, so that's a bit of a
So basically, it's
gruesome
like
and brutal
kind of
one.
Sorry.
I think. Okay, here's a lighter-hearted one, slightly lighter-hearted.
He also rolled down Libby Hill drunken.
He probably did. His spirit was possessing us when we did. Anyway, so he had been living right before he moved to Richmond to take that job. He was bouncing back and forth between Richmond and Baltimore for a lot of his 20s. And when he was in Baltimore, he stayed with his aunt and young cousin, Virginia. And about the time she was 13, he moves down to Richmond to take the Southern Literary Messenger job. One of the cousins in their family decides that he is going to take Virginia and the aunt into his own home and into his own family. And Poe absolutely flips out. And he wrote these letters basically threatening suicide if you don't marry me, and threatening the aunt with it too. They're incredibly manipulative. And he calls her sissy and little wifey in those letters. Like, oh man. I say in the book, it's like,
He reminds me of somebody I know.
it's like a car crash of so many taboos at once. But it is interesting. They got married here. They probably honeymooned in Petersburg.
Oh, the berg, the
How romantic.
Right? It's
romantic.
very exotic. It's
How
like Sandals, Jamaica.
Any advice you'd have for Poe's in training or new writers coming up, like just in general? I know that's very broad, but you can.
I've had a day job this entire time. It's a very difficult way to make a living. Only like within the discipline itself, if you consider like all writers, I think probably fewer than 1% make their actual living from it.
I gave up before I started.
Yeah, smart. I wish I had.
My dad's like, no, write more. I'm like, for what?
My mom's been writing a book. I wonder if she'll listen to this.
Well, I mean, I'm half joking when I say it's like a curse and a blessing at the same time. But anyway, don't try to make it pay is my first bit of advice. And then secondly, and then I know this is like kind of dry, but this like goes in general for the creator economy and anybody who's a creator, that from the moment you start putting stuff out, whether it's like putting songs on SoundCloud or writing a newsletter or whatever, like you should be figuring out how to keep in touch with that audience, like building a mailing list, having a website, being easy to find, like just your email address and so on. Because as like little random things happen and people want to get in touch with you to like have you on a podcast or something, it's really important to be easy to find. And I definitely made the mistake of not doing that for way too long and kind of missed some early opportunities I think I could have had. So just as a practical thing, I think you have to do all that.
That's good advice. I like practical
Advice for us, too, even as podcasters.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you're any kind of artist, you have to have a social media presence, and that has its own risks.
And I I don't love Twitter or Instagram. I'm not good at Instagram anyway.
I do, too.
Yeah, I'm still on there.
I try to avoid pictures of myself, you know.
Yeah, I love Instagram more than any of the other ones.
I like Facebook.
Maybe because I'm visual. I'm like,
I feel like
I
I'm
write
a
that out.
Well, y'all
I
are
am
pretty.
a-
Look at me. Jeez.
middle-aged housewife. I love Facebook.
Oh, I like Facebook too. I'm just posting
That's
pictures
where I get
of my
my
baby.
news.
And
Post pictures of my memes and my cat.
I literally only look at the news feed. And I only read the bylines. But, it's fine.
That's why you're so well
I
informed.
got a funny story though about Poe, and actually, if you could probably finish this story for us, the bust of Poe went missing from the museum for a long time, and well, they had no leads, and they just figured it as lost. They said we're never going to get this back because whoever's got it, they found it at someone had left it at a bar in Chesterfield, the Raven Inn, which is actually where my mom worked. It's
wow.
Yeah, they found it. It wasn't me, I swear. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of
That's cool.
comical, it's like true crime incident. Yeah.
I love that. Is the Raven Inn still there?
No, it's a RV dealership now. But yeah, it was called the Raven.
I love Richmond.
It was so fitting. Yeah, well, that's so.
Such a Richmond thing,
Yeah.
too.
I have but Poe's influence is still being felt today. I mean, it's like people are still copying his style. I have a friend who has a band in Richmond called Tear Up the Planks, based on Telltale Heart. She even has a tattoo, Nevermore, on her arm. So shout out for Tear Up the Planks. Tear Up the Planks. And it's a skull, a raven, and a book. So
I love
cool.
that. You'll have to send me a picture, I hope.
sure will. But Poe still has fans here in Richmond, and it's big influence.
I think he's a pretty powerful local presence. Like in Baltimore and Philadelphia has multiple Poe murals if you're ever in town, and they have a Raven bar that I have
I'll
been
be
in.
there in
Let's go to the
2
bar.
weeks.
It's pretty fun, honestly. And
Your sister.
that's one of his houses. It's where it's where he wrote some of his most famous works, and it's well preserved. It's actually like part of a national park now. It's very cool.
Gone.
Let's go have some Amontillado.
Yeah, right.
Indeed. Let's pass out in a gutter somewhere.
That's how we honor him.
Well, before I circle back to hear what you might have coming up next, let's just run down a little back history.
Very well.
You've come up with some interesting facts, Miss Olivia.
Oh, Lord, hold on. I did. Okay. So, here's some cool facts about Poe. People like me who don't really know him that well. He studied at U of R for 1 year, though. But I had no idea that the college is that old. His parents were traveling actors. His mom acted in a local RVA company. And then we already touched on his mom dying of tuberculosis, but she was buried at the St. John's Church in Richmond. And Poe was left parentless at the age of 3. He was adopted by a tobacco merchant. His name was John Francis Allen. And he hoped Poe would take over his business, but Poe was dead set on becoming a poet. And Poe was addicted to gambling, addicted to alcohol.
My God, like that.
He sounds kind of toxic.
He's a party boy.
He's a little Britney Spears song.
And I already mentioned that his fiance, who he never got to marry, her name was Elmira, and that's where I'm from, in New York, which is kind of coincidental. And his dark personality and despairing life turned him into a literary legend.
We should all be so lucky.
Yes.
Speaking of local influence, Kat and I were talking before the show, but we actually met at RavenCon.
Oh yeah,
Just after the last podcast. It's named in honor of Edgar Allan Poe. It's it started as an author's.
It's really
convention.
Literary. It's pretty heavily so. I noticed.
Mystery,
anyway.
science fiction, and horror. And so we met there. You were a vendor there. And so I was working as a volunteer in the audio department. But so it's like he's still honored here.
He is, and I wonder if that. I love crowds of Poe fans.
Yeah.
They're just really, I don't know, my kind of people, and into the same sort of things. And so there was such a great vibe in that room. Like it wasn't super busy or anything like that. It was one of the slower cons I've been to, but I liked that about it. And people were like amazingly kind. I just really liked it.
Oh yeah. Anytime I go to these the conventions with authors, I make a point of buying 3 books. I wish I'd bought one from you.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, it's like I was trying to find a new author. I say I'll support your work. Because we're all
you
working.
can buy one
Still buy
today.
it.
It's
You
real.
can still buy it.
Yeah.
I was at GalaxyCon a few weekends before that, and that was massive. Like, I think they said over 20,000 people were there. But anyway, the Poe Museum was there. I was there. And, like, you could just, with my little booth, I could see Poe fans, like, peeling out of the crowd and coming toward me. I'm like, oh, I know you're into this.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Like, I think people who are fans of Poe are also fans of other things. Like, there's overlap with horror and film and all sorts. So.
Oh yeah, it had to be like because some of his mystery novels, he started the mystery genre, and some would argue the science fiction. He did he was one of the earlier science fiction writers.
I definitely think that's true. And he also was, I think, one of the first sort of voices of science fiction that tried to make it plausible, that explained the mechanics of the inventions and so on. Like, I think of the balloon hoax. Yeah. I think that could be argued that that's science fiction.
I wish we could do a seance and have him on the podcast.
Let's do it.
They do that. That's a South Park skit. If you yes, Google it. It's so funny. He comes over and he's like helping the emo kids.
I must have seen it.
really
I
good.
watch every South Park, so
We gotta watch.
It's very good. Anyway, great minds.
well, and
go
we're
to a
gonna
mirror
have
and
some people on who do like the haunted stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they do a
Down the line.
seance. I think we might need our
I am in
resident
for that.
Poe expert to
Did
come
you-
back for that.
Please.
There was a lady. I don't know if you saw this story, but there was a lady. I should save this for later. But she had after her funeral, she sent. She knew she was going to pass away. She sent cards to all her friends with a little picture of a Ouija board. It said, "Yeah, write to me sometime."
Something I would do.
That's good. Well, let me give you one last taste of history before we go to the fun questions. So if anyone has been inspired to take a little Poe journey around town, let me give you some highlights. Obviously, the museum, which is located in Shockoe Bottom. The old stone house is actually part of the museum. It's the oldest house in Richmond proper. It was built in 1737. Also, you could perchance go to the Elizabeth Arnold Poe Memorial Building, which is also on the property. It was built for his mother. 2 items dominate the room physically: the staircase from the Allen House on 14th Street and the Richard H. Park Memorial Sculpture honoring Poe and his actor parents. So that's interesting to check out. But sad fact, none of the homes Poe lived in Richmond are still standing. Neither the Great House Moldavia nor the boarding houses and taverns. However, a house Poe visited, Talavera, privately owned and unmarked, still stands on a quiet block of West Grace Street. So y'all go wander around West Grace and figure it out. Poe gave his last reading of The Raven at Talavera on September 25th, 1849. Another privately owned house that Poe visited is the clearly marked Elmira Shelton House at 2407 East Grace Street.
That's crazy.
The Craig Stith House on the corner of 19th and East Grace, currently undergoing renovation, is the girlhood home of Jane Stannard, who inspired Poe's first To Helen lyric. So, there you go. And then, of course, you can visit Mama's grave up at St. John's. But if y'all want to learn more, then Google.
Leave it to a church
Go
show
forth
later.
and Google.
But
Just before we go to the fun stuff, any like upcoming events or anything you're doing or anything you want to talk about, Kat?
I got a bunch of events in the fall because Halloween is Poe season, so I tend to stay busy. I'll be at the festival in Baltimore. I'm going to do the Scare Weekend with GalaxyCon here and a couple of others. But I'm kind of like, I'm working on something new, or at least trying to. But right now, like, I don't have childcare, so I'm just like with a 2-year-old all day long. So it's not coming along very fast. Yeah.
It's Lala.
Anyway, I'm excited about the new idea. It hasn't sold yet, but we haven't tried to sell it yet, so we'll see.
Well, I can't wait.
Thank you.
We'll have to definitely have you back for a post seance, but also to hear more about
The Halloween show. I love a Halloween theme.
Well, you know,
show.
there's a Halloween fan right here. You can look at
Right,
my
right,
decor.
right.
The decor of the dungeon is very.
The dungeon.
the dungeon. Dun dun dun.
All right, let's go into some funny questions.
Real
I
quick,
want to
Lat.
know, because you know Liz and Amy and the whole crew, I want to know what is the most embarrassing thing that you feel comfortable sharing with us that's ever happened to you.
Oh, Lord.
And if you need some time to think about it, perhaps we can all go around the room.
Might have just purposefully blocked it out somehow. Like, I'd have to be hypnotized into remembering.
It probably involved a party and Zima.
I think we missed. I don't want to get into more details than just saying we saw Feist play in Charlottesville and acted badly.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh
All
my
right.
God,
I'm not
I forgot
expanding
about
on
that.
that. Not
Oh my
expanding.
God! I think we hit up Wendy's on the way home. That's all that will. Nevermore shall we speak of it.
Yeah, I think Feist. Oh God, I never want to see her again. I can't listen to her music.
I totally forgot about that.
Oh,
That's
God.
so wild. Good time. Sorry, you guys. You can't. No.
To our credit, that was
Alright, that's
2006. right?
Hashtag
That's a
if
long
you
time
know,
ago.
you know. I mean, we should have hit Taco Bell instead, but whatever.
Should we all we all answer, or should we go?
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, I've had a lot, but one of the worst ones was I went to Floyd Fest with my friends, had a cute dress on, went to use one of the porta potties, came out, was talking to my friends, and I look behind me and like there's this creepy man like laughing and staring at me. I'm like, what the hell? And then I go to like fluff out my dress, and my dress was tucked into my underwear, and my whole entire ass was out.
Oh my God.
For a long time, for like 20 minutes. And I was like, oh my God. And we laughed for like 2 hours about it.
He's still thinking about it.
Got a free show that day. Lucky bastard.
Best day of his life.
Lee, you got one?
Oh, gee. I'm a musician. I have a lot of embarrassing moments, but when you say embarrassing moments, the only thing that comes to me is the first grade. I was in school. I was coming back from somewhere, and I walked into the room. All the room was quiet. All the kids were sitting quietly, but there's one kid at the front of the room with names written on the board. And I said, "Oh, why isn't my name up there? You want it up there? Yeah, right up there." It turns out it was all the kids who made trouble while the teacher was gone. And so I said, "Oh, why is his name on here?" Well, he wanted to be up there. So I learned, don't ask. Just
Right.
Never speak
How
out.
You like the military, don't ask.
do not draw attention to yourself at all. No.
I mean, yeah, like I don't get embarrassed very easily, so it's very hard for me to think of anything. The main thing I can think of was in middle school, these little assholes. When I got up at lunch, unbeknownst to me, they put ketchup all over my seat.
Oh my God.
So mean.
And then I sat down and
middle school.
I had what looked like period blood / ketchup hanging off my ass. So then I had to go put on my ugly ass gym clothes and sit like that. It was like the Scarlet Letter.
Were they nice pants that they ruined?
Is it too late to go beat them up?
I'm pissed.
I know. Well, one of them was Jed Sneed. So if you're listening to this, Jed Sneed, you piece of shit, you owe me a new pair of pants.
Gucci.
Yeah, revenge is a dish best served cold.
That's a typo negative song.
Oh yeah.
Matt Shoemate.
I know, right? Well, let's see. You could probably relate to this one, and then we'll move along. But what's the funniest thing you've ever heard a child? It doesn't have to be yours. Any child say.
I don't know if it's the funniest, but
It's very random.
my son, who's 2, right? I've mentioned him 47 times. Anyway, the other day we were playing with rocks, and he kept saying rock, rock, but no, it wasn't rock. It was an F-bomb. Give me a minute. You're not. I was like, Chris, we got to get better. He's 2.
hilarious.
He's 2. We can't do this.
That's the word he latched onto.
It sounded like rock to begin with, but it was not.
That's kind of funny because we've answered this before, but I have another one. So when I was younger, my little brother was even younger. So my brother was probably like 4 or 5, and I was in college. And we were driving. We were going past an intersection, and a truck almost literally T-boned us. And we had the green light, and they like ran the red light. And I slammed on my brakes. Michael's in his car seat. He like lunged forward.
Oh God!
And the guy is like some idiot. And I rolled down my window. I am pissed. And I'm like not a quiet girl. I'm loud. I'm confrontational.
Wait, how old were you?
I was probably like 19.
Oh, okay.
Rolled down my window, and he like already had his rolled down, and I go, "You almost like I'm not gonna say the F word, but like you almost effing killed us. What the F is wrong with you?" And I took both of my hands and gave him double middle fingers, and then kept driving. And my brother saw it all, and I'm like, "Sorry, Michael. Like, sorry. I'm really upset. Like, we could have died." And so we got home, and my little brother's telling the story to my family about what happened.
Like where it's
and
going.
she was like swearing, and she gave him the finger, and then he went like this, and people can't see, but he put his like pointer fingers up, and he's like, the finger. And it was so funny.
Aw, that's so cute. Aw. I don't even know. I don't have one.
Oh,
Go ahead. Yes, you got another.
okay. This is a high school story because so this is the 90s and landlines and so on. And I was dating this guy named Dennis Carter. I was like a freshman in high school. He was a very sweet guy. He was like I think he wanted to date Amy, actually. I got a lot of runoff that way. Yep. Anyway.
Got a lot of run off that way. That's hilarious.
I did. I swear to God, people usually asked her to like homecoming first, and then I got the invitation second. Anyway, so I talked on the phone to a friend about breaking up with Dennis. I talked to my mom about it, and Luke Babb, my little brother, Dennis came over for dinner. He's like, "She's gonna break up with you."
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was a little kid. But still, like, oh my God, that's even
So
mom
did
like
Dennis
piped up
start
to lie.
crying?
No, my mom was like, "That's not true," and I was like, "Thank you, Mom. You lied for me."
But then you were like, "Now I can't break up with you for at least another week in school time."
I delayed it like 2 weeks.
God, you keep reminding me of my little brother because he did
really?
something like that too.
Yeah, that is a little brother thing.
I've had other boyfriends, and I was like reunited with a guy I dated in high school, and then like we broke up, and then we got back together in college, and I had dated someone in between, and his name was Nick, and my little brother had met Nick, and he knew the other guy too, and so I was with my other boyfriend at the dinner table with my family, and my little brother goes, "Olivia, remember Nick?" And we still joke about it to this day.
That's so funny.
Little
I mean,
brothers.
well, I could call out your other little brother, Carl Babb. On many a night, I would go dine with the Babbs. A fine dinner of hot dogs and coleslaw. One of my favorites.
Like
to this
cheese on
day.
pineapple.
Hells yeah.
Shredded cheese on
Yeah,
pineapple.
of course. But Carl would always just mess with me. I guess he messed with other people, but I don't know. And he'd be like, "I'm going to kill you after dinner. Don't worry, blah, blah, blah." So hence, we called him the Unabomber for years.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, you're going to die tonight.
He's got a very serious voice too, so it plays well when he.
I bet he have a good radio voice.
He would actually. I think he could like be an audiobook narrator.
Maybe we should.
Oh, Lee, you should do that.
I should totally do that.
Yeah.
I've actually thought about doing that as well.
Me too, but I don't know. But, Lee, it's that time.
What time is it?
Will you please give it to us?
Yes, give it to us, Lee.
Okay, well, today I'm going to give it to you with force. Because today is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
And with your spirit.
Yes, it's like so
Skywalker.
all of us Jedi wannabes out there,
Catholics.
we're celebrating. And so by the time you're hearing this, the holiday's already passed. But I hope you have a good holiday. I'm an original trilogy guy. I don't like all the ones after. But
Same with my little brother.
I agree.
Then again, I'm an old man, so I don't like any of the new stuff. But yeah, so that all of us nerds, we got together like 2 weeks ago over at RavenCon, and so that's the story today.
Nice.
Well, happy holidays, everyone.
Yes. Well, and then that brings us to another favorite portion. Kat, I know you've listened to a podcast or two, but we must guess Lee's name.
Lee. Lee is not his
first
real name.
Yeah, he goes by his middle
My
name.
middle name. My first name is rather obscure.
It's his.
What part of the country are you from?
My family's from Appalachia of North Carolina.
You get 3 guesses. We all get 3. We'll go around and around. Robin.
Beauregard.
Ooh, I like
I feel like she's gonna get it if
No,
everybody does.
If you get it, we'll kill you.
there's
It's
a,
like a hotter, colder thing, like warmer, warmer.
right there is the $25 gift certificate that will go to the winner who guesses it. And we ask that you spend it at a local restaurant or shop. All right, Olivia, your turn.
Frederick.
No.
Forrest.
No.
That's nice. Hampton.
No.
Lyle.
Reginald.
You already said
You've already
that.
said
I probably. it's a favorite name apparently. I don't know. Reggie. I'm gonna name my next dog Reggie.
Yeah, I do feel like you could probably get it pretty quick.
Might need 5 tries, though. Brain's not what it was. Jebediah.
Oh, no.
I think I already guessed that.
Nigel.
No.
Okay. What's the guy on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Carlton.
Yeah, Carlton.
No. Okay.
Do we find out now?
No.
It's been going
be
for 9
continued.
weeks now. Oh. We should be getting interest. Again, I said it before. So we should get interest on that.
TBD.
Yeah. So.
I'll be in suspense still.
I guess I should have guessed Edgar.
Ooh.
I'd have
Next
given you that one.
Fortunato. Fortunato.
Oh,
Amontillado.
You guys, stop it. You're cheating.
so.
All right, guys.
Well, I
let's
think
do some shout outs.
Yes. Sprezza.
I'd like to shout out. I went once again with my boyfriend to Love Shack, baby. Love Shack.
Oh, did you go to Lakeside of Maine?
We went to Maine.
Yes.
I love it there. I love both though, but I never
Lakeside.
can go to the Lakeside one. It's
Lakeside
always
is
packed.
awesome.
Shut down every time.
Always
You been?
packed.
No, what
yeah.
is
God,
it?
it's this
So
really
good.
good brunch
SB's
spot.
Lakeside Love Shack.
It's all based off of the song Love Shack. So everything on the menu is like literally the song.
I would love this.
Like
place.
hot as an oven muffins or something like whatever. Like
I really
And their
like
cheese
this.
toast is glitter on the mattress because they use glittered sugar on it.
And then there's a song, Bang Bang on the Door.
and they have all
yeah.
these compound butters that they make that you can
love
get on
butter.
top of your pancake.
I won't go into detail, but let's just say I had a green surprise.
Oh Lord.
The waiters the wait staff are also performers.
Sometime.
Sometimes.
Not when I've been there. I guess. I missed that one. What else?
Shout out to the Poe Museum.
Shout
Oh,
out to
hell
the
yeah.
museum.
They're
Museum.
great there.
Hardywood.
Happy
Happy
hours. Yeah, we should go to one.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Ooh. What day is the unhappy hour?
They change from month to month. I think it's like
Wednesdays or Thursdays.
third Thursdays or something like that. But I can find out, and it's also on their website.
And I'm going to shout
We'll
out
put
to
a link on there.
Hardywood Brewery, West
Love
Creek.
that place.
Yes.
It's very pretty. Did you lay in a hammock?
No, I didn't.
I usually do.
I've never seen a hammock open there.
Well, there's usually the chillin' around there.
the churn.
Jern. She's got that. You need to like write a dictionary with the proper pronunciation of these words.
I know. Sorry, my grandma taught me well.
I'm a Yankee. I don't know how to pronounce shit.
I got the southern shit down. Also, let's give a shout out to I'm going to Conejo, I know, on Saturday. So I love them.
Kat, anyone you recommend? Anyone you shout?
I love Bramley Park and Coco and Hazel. That's near my part of
Ooh,
town.
yeah.
Anyone know the one on Huguenot? It's delicious.
I work
Oh.
right down the street. Yes.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I love that place.
Where else? I went to Sidecar again.
Oh, love-
And then there was the sushi place near there. Okay, if you go to Sidecar, guys, if you're listening, I don't know the name of the business, but there's a sushi place that's like 5 steps.
Oh, it's
Wild Orchid or something. Like
It's no, it's the place that's crazy. Is it? I want to say Ginger.
Yep.
Wild Ginger.
Yeah, Wild
that's
Ginger.
what's at.
Yep. Wild
Sorry,
Ginger.
I live in
It's
Churchill,
good.
y'all.
Shout out to, and Sarah, if you're listening, Sarah, Elijah Craig. We got a shot of Elijah Craig for free because we were drunk and we kept saying Elijah Craig and we're like, can we try Elijah Craig? And the guy was like, and he like gave it to us and then we didn't like it.
yeah, that sounds.
Well,
really rough.
everyone have their Elijah Craig handy this weekend because it's bourbon drinking weekend, y'all.
Derby.
All right, we got the Kentucky Derby. We can't wait to run
Mother's
that
Day
down.
is in between.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right
In the coronation.
betwixt.
Betwixt.
And I'm getting massive surgery. Yay. Oh, I'm having 2 to 3 discs removed out of my neck. And yep.
Wow, that is
Some fake shit's going to get put in. So
gonna be like.
I'm going to be the
cyborg
bionic woman.
They make it
Hey.
Next time you
sparkle.
hear me.
She'll be better than she
Maybe. Yeah, I should have been like, could you put glitter in that somehow?
Put like a
Glow
time
in the
capsule
dark.
in there.
Yeah.
But thank you, Kat, so much. We
Hey, this was super fun.
we'll
so
put
nice
up
to meet
links
you.
to all
Nice
of
to meet
your
you, yeah.
social pages. We had such a blast.
Yeah, also,
And,
you said you have an email list.
Oh yeah, I write a Substack that's free and will always be free. It's called Poe Can Save Your Life. So if you just Google Poe Can Save Your Life, or it's linked on my website too, and it's mostly like it's just dark self-help, kind of like the
Cool
book.
cause. You're like helping people like who are in depressive phases. Poe can save your life. It saved your life.
I mean, I legit believe it. It's also funny.
the best medicine is laughing, I firmly believe. So,
It's like the darker the thing you can laugh at, the better off you are. You know.
for reals.
Yeah.
Cool. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, guys. And by the way, if you need some, you have lyrics. and
Recordings.
You have lyrics and you need some music or a backing track, or you have a podcast, but you're not sure how to get it recorded. Lee Dungeon Studios can help.
Yeah,
Our
baby.
own Lee is free, except on Thursdays, to help you with your needs. So we'll link him up, as always, in the bio section of this podcast.
Otherwise, we'll hit y'all up in 2 weeks.
All right.
All right.
Peace out.
Stay safe out there.
Thank you guys. That was super fun.
Yeah.